the judging and officiating in some fights, and people get very angry, they get very emotional. One of the issues that came up over the weekend was Keith Jardine losing a point because of an inadvertent eye poke, although Herb Dean called it a different way. Did you see that Kaiser, did anyone make a mistake there? Did Dean make a mistake, and is it going to cost Jardine something long-term?
Well, again, number one, it did not cost Jardine anything because he would have lost the fight even if the point wasn't taken away. No matter what would have happened, if he would have had that point back, he would have lost by split decision instead of majority decision. So he lost nothing out of it. He lost the fight on the judges' scorecards. I think a lot of people, myself included, felt Hamill won the fight. I mean, there were some that thought Jardine won the fight, but I think by and large, most people aren't arguing with the decision that Hamill won. Close fight, but Keith did not lose anything by Herb Dean. Now, what are they going to complain about Keith Kaiser in this case? He appointed the best referee in the world, Herb Dean, to work the fight. Herb Dean is not God. He made a mistake, but here's the thing. In getting the explanation of what happened, Herb Dean, he was looking down to pick up the mouthpiece, but he had noticed prior to the eye poke that Jardine was starting to punch with his hands open, and to use Herb's phrase, he was getting a little bit wild. So Herb was aware that this was a possibility, and he was watching for it. Now, he specifically missed. He did not see the incident occur because Jardine's mouthpiece was knocked out, and he picked up the mouthpiece when the incident occurred and Hamill got poked in the eye. However, because he knew what had happened, he had seen the hands open when he was punching. Obviously, Matt Hamill was poked in the eye, and Jardine wasn't denying that he inadvertently poked him in the eye. He did it. He took the point because I personally think the referee needs to see it. But he basically took 1-on-1 and got 2. I would rather it be, hey, you see that. But in the case of, if he had not taken a point and let the fight continue, he could have said, hey, get together. Matt Hamill's going to get knocked out because he's on the ground, he can't see. Jardine's going to jump on top of him, and the fight's going to be over. So it was really a very difficult thing, Steve, for Herb Dean to do. By him taking the point, it was able to give Matt Hamill a chance to get his vision back from something that was not, within the rules to have happen, and it allowed the fight to proceed fairly on forward.
The main event the next night, there was a little controversy as well. Josh Rosenthal. There were low blows in the fight. He's a referee. There were low blows between Chalarousse and Varner. Chalarousse got Varner on multiple occasions. The second low blow, a point got taken away. The third blow, a low blow, after a warning, and obviously the point was even more vicious and more on point. Why was there no point taken away in that case?
Yeah, that one I did not understand. I haven't spoken to Josh yet, so I don't want to get into his head and explain why he did what he did. I think Josh has developed into a pretty good referee. Now, here's what I think the mistake that he made was taking the point on the second one. Because of the 3 low blows, the first one was very borderline. The last 2 certainly were clearly low blows and were damaging. And I think that after the second one, what Josh would have been better off doing at that point is backing Chalarousse up to the cage and saying, look, you really damaged this guy. I'm going to take a point the next time. Had he done it that way and taken a point the third time, he has no issue because now, he's warned him twice and he's taken away. There's no rule that says after one warning I have to take a point. It's always at referee discretion. The referee can take the point away without a warning. I mean, some people think there's a rule that says that. There is not. But generally the way it works is the referee will warn once or twice, sometimes even more, and then he will take the point depending on how things go. I think Josh made a mistake by taking the point on the second one as opposed to the third one, and I don't understand why he did what he did there, but I haven't spoken to him, so I haven't gotten his side of the story.
The other issue in that fight was Chalarousse and Varner, and it wound up being a draw, 29-27 each way with 2 judges, and then 28-28. If you want to quibble with the scoring, that's one thing. My other issue, and I know it was a while ago now, it was October, I'm not comfortable with Cecil Peoples on these fights, especially after he ranted publicly. I think there's an issue, and one of the first things I thought of, and I didn't disagree with the draw that much. I thought Chalarousse leg kicks were pretty vicious, but who's to say now that Cecil Peoples goes to some fights after getting blasted for his leg kicks don't hurt comment, and now goes, you know what, screw it, I'm going to score leg kicks to the nth degree.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough when the officials are talking publicly. I mean, we're in a world now in the media where there's much more access than there ever was. There's much more immediacy than there ever was. So everybody can make their case publicly. And, sometimes when the officials talk, it creates, you want to avoid impropriety, and you also want to avoid the appearance of impropriety. And by saying, well, leg kicks don't count, hey, if he wants to think that, I disagree with that. I think they should count. I think it's in the rules. Those are strikes. They should be counted. But if he wants to think that, he needs to keep that opinion to himself. His judging criterion needs to be kept to himself. And then he would have to answer to the commission when they discuss with him after a particular fight, how come you didn't score these points? And he can make that argument. But I think that's one of the things. But we want to have access to the officials so they can explain, because when you heard Herb Dean's explanation of the point for Jardine being taken off, it made a lot more sense than just watching it live.
But we want to have access to them. They don't.
That's what I'm saying. We don't want to.
No, what I'm saying is they don't need access to the fans. That, to me, that is outrageous. The judge from Southern California who judged Penn and Edgar is going online on the Underground Forum and talking about ghouls at his door wearing Rivka T-shirts from Hilo. I mean, to me, that's it. You're done. I can't trust you in terms of impartiality. I have a question in every fight you're in.
Yeah. I didn't read his comments. I remember you discussing it, and that's wrong. I mean, you have to avoid those kinds of things. As journalists, we even have certain things that we have to avoid. Hey, I'm a columnist, so it's my job to say my opinion. So I'm allowed to say, hey, I think that so-and-so is going to win, or I think so-and-so is terrible, or so-and-so is great. That's my job as a columnist, to express those opinions. I should be able to back them up. Judge is not, and I don't think it's right for a judge to go out and say that. I think if they make them available to the media, I think that they should train them to say, hey, answer a specific question and talk about why you scored a fight a certain way, but don't go out there talking about Hawaiian dances and all these other things that maybe they said.
And I know there's some over-the-top officials in some of the other sports. I think those sports come down pretty hard on officials who speak too much publicly, and they've got a little issue right now with a couple of guys. I'm not saying Cecil Peoples never gets to work a fight again, but I was a little shocked, even though it's been like 9 months, that he was working a main event.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I was too. I mean, I don't have his record in front of me, Steve, but my recollection, and just thinking of fights, is that he's missed a lot of fights where other judges have had it differently, where the fans, the media. Now, I don't want to call somebody a bad judge just because I disagree with him or because the majority of the fans disagree with him, because here's something I think is important to consider. As fans watching fights, the fans are drinking, they're eating, they're high-fiving each other, they're getting excited, and you have to have 100% concentration. And I know sometimes, I'm sitting at ringside and my pen falls, and I go to pick up my pen and a big punch lands. I can't evaluate it. Right. And the crowd goes crazy. Did the punch land? What happened? Just my pen falling off the desk. So it's very tough. And so while we all have opinions, the judge has that 100% concentration. So just because I disagree with the judge doesn't mean that the judge is a bad judge. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the fan who's disagreeing with him is wrong. But I think when they get on this, when it seems like they're being proactive on things, and when they're going out the way, some of these situations you're describing, I think that's where somebody has to draw the line.
And from watching all the fights, and you've watched more than me, but I've watched a lot in boxing and covered a lot in boxing and MMA. I usually don't go nuts on decisions, and I actually, like I just said, I agreed with Cecil Peoples' score. Most people disagree with the both of us, but it's, again, that image of lack of objectivity, impartiality in question. That's when it crosses the line, because and it's bad for the sport, because now it's turned into this whole thing where people feel like the judges are incompetent and they're overreacting to a very subjective process.
Exactly. And here's the thing, some people don't understand how the scoring process works. And so there's people that say, and we saw it on Saturday night, oh, how could that be a split decision? It had to be a unanimous decision, or they'll say, how could it be a unanimous decision? It was a close fight. It had to be a split decision. Well, let's use boxing because it's the better example. When you have 12 rounds, if one person wins just by that much, just a little bit every single round, he might win the fight 12 rounds to 0, right. 120 to 108, but it's an extremely close fight. That doesn't mean the judge thought it was a blowout. That meant that he thought that by 50.1 to 49.9, that fighter A beat fighter B in every single round. So, the score of a given round isn't a barometer to tell how the judge thought the fight went.
All right, Kev. Good stuff. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.